And she was the kind of person, like you said, she was basically fearless. She went after whatever she wanted, and she got rewarded for it at the company. And to me, it was actually kind of eye-opening because I was like, I don't know, I definitely fell into the fear category of women who were like afraid to like say stuff. And then
So now you've only recently left. I don't. You were the startup, right,
no,
Valentina?
I was at an education company before this.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're in the corporate world then.
yeah.
Did you start to see the rise of sort of employee resource groups, or do you even know what those are?
Yeah, we did have a few of those. The last place that I worked at, there were like, I guess by resource groups you mean like groups to organize different kinds of like women or people of color, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the ERGs, and,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they're
yeah.
usually along with the diversity, equity, and
Right.
inclusion initiatives for companies as well. So
Yeah, we had a few of those. I honestly, like in the beginning when I joined the company, I was like, I went to a couple of those meetings just to like get to know more people and to see what it's about. And I thought it was really great because they kind of really like try to like, make sure like talk about topics they didn't feel comfortable talking about, but like, um, or kind of like make sure women have like a say, they're paid, fairly, whatever. But I kind of ended up like not following with those too much because it was just like I don't know what the benefit of those groups are other than just like vent whatever frustrations they have because you can't make decisions at that level. It's like everybody there is just like not they can't do anything.
so the ones that I've been involved with in my current employer, I think what they each of them have is they had an executive sponsor that was pretty high up, usually on the C level or a VP. So there can actually be initiatives based off of the communication that occurs in those groups. The first one that I was involved with was one that was promoting women, and I thought it was great because my old boss was actually the one who spearheaded it, and so I was actually supporting her by joining the group and attending it. And one of the things that I've noticed in that group, and I definitely know that this is not universal because a lot of this comes into personality, and there's so much personality variation in the population at large. But I found that, and now please, I don't want to get canceled for what I'm about to say. It is coming from a place of curiosity and trying to figure this out, that there seem to be, and I'm trying to be very careful with my words here, more fear of, more fear in their day-to-day lives, and sort of trying to like navigate the corporate world. For an example, there was this one person who just seemed to be terrified of approaching someone to ask them if they could be their mentor, and that just didn't make any sense to me. But then the company that again work for has a lot of women in leadership roles, and they didn't seem to be as held back by fear, and they just sort of dived right in and didn't, quite frankly, give a shit about screwing up or anything like that. And but that was sort of my experience of it. Now again, I'm not a woman, but hey, I'm gay. I can play that card, right? uh, um
Yeah, that's a very interesting, very good point in that. So the company that I worked for had a good amount of women in leadership. And actually on my team, there was a woman who was amazing. And she was the kind of person, like you said, she was basically fearless. She went after whatever she wanted, and she got rewarded for it at the company. And to me, it was actually kind of eye-opening because I was like, I don't know, I definitely fell into the fear category of women who were like afraid to like say stuff. And then she was like, whatever, I'm just gonna go for whatever I want. And it worked out, right? And I was just like, there is a thing about women being raised in a certain way to be like agreeable and being like just saying yes to stuff and like not creating conflict. Like you never want to create conflict of any kind. And like if you grow up in that environment, if you're like maybe women being raised today are not as affected by this, but I feel like in our generation this is maybe more true. And then you go into the corporate world, you're definitely going to be like more timid, and it's going to work against you. And it's going to feed into the stereotype of women being more whatever, right? Versus like the fearless person who's going to succeed in the corporate world. So it's kind of a self-enforcing feedback loop, really, in a way, because there is real sexism, but there's also like this timidity, where women sometimes some women, not all women, but like some of us, myself included, don't even try to like fight for ourselves in a way. We're just like, oh no, I'm too scared. And this does happen a lot. So it is a problem. And in that sense, I did find the ERGs and like working with other women who are like, who don't have that view to be very like helpful.
It's really interesting. So, because now when ERGs in general, as I said, I supported my boss in that regard. I didn't see, I came from the mindset as like, shouldn't we all just be treating people equally and respectfully in general? Like, shouldn't that just be when we come into work, our job is to like not talk about, again, this is the old way of thinking, not talk about sex, politics, or religion, and just you're there to get the job done. And unfortunately, I guess my sort of idealistic mindset also seemed to forgot that humans aren't robots, and we bring in a lot of who we are into every environment we go into. And you see that right now in the Supreme Court of the U.S. with that draft decision on abortion, which is terrifying, quite frankly. But I hate how much of your ideology and your upbringing and just how much who you are, you bring that everywhere, even when it's a job that actually should require you to be very emotionless and extremely dispassionate about what you're doing. You're there because you believe in the letter of the law, or like an example, the Supreme Court, versus being an activist and trying to change the world. But now I think with ERGs and just with corporate culture as a whole, we seem to be going in the opposite direction, where we bring all of that to the office and to all aspects of our lives, where we put all of who we are, our immutable characteristics included, front and center. At least that's what we're trying, at least that's why I perceive that we're moving towards as a society. We're trying to get there. Maybe not.
Yeah.
So, because I guess what I'm saying is, I think ERGs, and I've come kind of maybe done a 180 because I thought they were dumb when I first started. And now it's like, okay, these do have a reason to exist, because we'll never be that, as I said, that group of robots.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just want to add that, like, I did like on further thinking about it. I do think for me, the biggest benefit of ERGs was just kind of like finding that confidence. But to the point of like bringing who we are, those immutable factors to the workplace, I think that's just a pendulum, and I think that's just how it's swinging right now. I think it's like trying to like, I think it's the country as a whole, the culture trying to like overcompensate about like ignoring all these things for years, right? Like in the 90s, you just weren't supposed to like talk about certain things. Like you weren't allowed to like bring up racism, right? Or like sexism, like it didn't exist. You know, obviously it didn't exist, right? Well, but like just because you ignore it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So now we're kind of overcompensating a little bit. And I think eventually it'll kind of like settle somewhere in the middle. I think it's just a pendulum.
It's probably an important shift. I can't believe, because like a few months ago, I think I would have maybe said something different, but yeah, I think there's a lot of value here. I will say though, I am also a member of the LGBT ERG. It's a lot of letters. And that one I just can't relate to. So I guess another aspect for me is being gay is such a small part of who I am. I would probably call myself a game designer, game developer, before I would call myself gay or software engineer or anything else. I mean, everyone has multiple aspects that make up their identity. Just mine seems to be less visible because I also don't overtly come off as gay to a lot of people either. So I have a hard time relating with other gay people when they make gay front and center of their identity. It's just because it's such a small part of me, and I don't want to really, it's not something I want to talk about every day. It doesn't interest me that much.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that, because I personally, like, the other thing about all those women meetings we had at the company was that, like, if I'm in a meeting with like 10 other women, like I kind of feel like I don't know how to say it, but I'm more comfortable in like where the mix is more balanced, or where there's more men, or where it's like more 50-50. Whereas like I don't in a way relate a lot to a lot of things that women are interested in. So to me, it's like it kind of felt like I'm like, yeah, I'm a woman. We're gonna talk about like women things now, and I'm just like, I'm not into it. I don't know. It's just like weird. I guess I identify more as being an engineer or whatever, game developer. I mean, I do identify as a woman. I'm not like, that's not a question to me. But I guess I'm not overly feminine enough to really fit into like super girly groups, if that makes any sense. Um, so it was always kind of like a weird one for me as well.
I think gay culture, at least the stuff that gets promoted, is so much around like partying and stuff like that. I'm like, oh hell no,
Right.
I'm too old for that shit too.
Yeah.